What is going on, YouTube fam? Welcome to the Jonathan Dearman Show, the least political show on YouTube. If you enjoy content that is more loyal to principles instead of political parties, consider subscribing. And today I just want to rant just a little bit about both sides of the aisle. I want to talk about Republicans and Democrats, what I think they're getting wrong in this season, what I think they could learn from and make adjustments for. And there's going to be a video coming out soon where I'm going to rant about overall what I think each of the parties missed over this last season. But today, in today's video, I want to specifically talk about with regards to the election, with regards to the fraud accusations that have come up, and talk about where I think each party is missing it. Let me lay out a frustration right off the bat with the way that political lines are drawn. First of all, pre-election, before the results started coming in on November 3rd, there was some polls that happened. And listen, I know polls are not 100% accurate, but there were some polls that happened where they surveyed Republicans and Democrats and asked Republicans and Democrats if they thought the election was going to be a fair election, and whatever the outcome would be because the voters have spoken. And it was for each party right at about 50% of people that thought that the election was going to be fair, and 50% thought that there was going to be some sort of tampering or something that went on. And then after the election happened, and it appears Biden hasn't officially been declared the winner, legally speaking, but since Biden has been declared by the media the winner of the election, those numbers have totally switched up, where now you have the vast majority of Republicans believing that the election was not fair, and the vast majority of Democrats that believe it was completely fair, that everything was reasonable and beautiful. That right off the bat is an issue for me, because if we walk in integrity as people, then why is it just a coincidence that the candidate of each party's choosing, whether that candidate does good or bad, determines whether or not they think the election was fair or not? I think it shouldn't be like that. It really, really should not. So anyway, that right off the bat kind of bothers me just a lot. It really does. But let me start out with Republicans. What I think Republicans could be doing better through this whole election fraud. Bear with me for a second, because I will get to Democrats. Don't worry. I'm on Republicans right now, but they're coming, and they're coming hard. What I really think Republicans could do better is they're looking for Democrats not to make conclusions until the evidence comes out. And so what they're saying to Democrats is, why are you concluding that there was no fraud before the evidence reveals whether or not there was fraud? And I think that is a reasonable claim. Republicans wish that Democrats would not jump to the conclusion that there was no voter fraud until the evidence comes out. Let's see if there was or not. But here's where I think Republicans are missing it. On the flip side of that, if Republicans are calling on Democrats to wait for the evidence and to be open to the results of the evidence, then I think Republicans also have to do a better job at doing that exact same thing. Many Republicans have jumped to the positive conclusion that this election was stolen by mass voter fraud. And listen, maybe those people are right. We'll have to wait to find out. But here's the bottom line. You don't know. You may feel like you know, you may think that you know, and maybe you're even right, but you can't possibly know that for a fact. We haven't seen an investigation play out where both sides get to share their side of the story. We oftentimes hear one side of the story and say, see, obviously, right? Like for instance, I'll give you an example. In some states, what the states did first was they counted the in-person voting that happened on November 3rd, where they counted the votes where people actually came to the poll stations and voted. And then after those were done, they counted the mail-in ballots. Well, it was known even before counting that Democrats were pushing their voters to vote in through mail, and Republicans were really pushing their voters to show up on Election Day. And so it was already really accepted by both parties that probably Democrats would do better on the mail-in votes and Republicans would do better on the in-person votes. Well, so for states that first counted the in-person votes and then counted the mail-in votes, it makes sense that you first see Trump starting to rise really strongly, and then the Democrats come back and possibly overtake the Republicans, or at least narrow that gap a lot. And so I'm not saying that there's not mass voter fraud. I said in my last video that I think there are definitely things that are suspicious from what I've heard that warrant looking into it and finding out for sure what did happen here, and were there any cases where there was voter fraud on the level that really determined the election. But I think that Republicans would do better if they focused on doing what they're really hoping that Democrats will do, which is don't just jump to a set conclusion and in the Democrats' case say there's absolutely no way there was voter fraud. Let the investigation play out and find out what the results are. And I'm personally on this channel, I really feel like this channel is the voice of America. This channel, I just passed 1,000 subs. It's not easy being a big deal. I'll tell you that right now, first of all. But that's what I'm calling for on this channel too, is for both sides. People on the right, Republicans, what I think they could do better is if you're going to call for Democrats to be open to the results of the investigation, then you also have to be open to the results of the investigation. And that's what I think Republicans could do better. Now let's get to Democrats. And here's the thing with how the Democrats are reacting to a lot of this. The hysteria coming out of especially the media, especially left-wing media, right? Every media source except Fox News. The hysteria coming out of these media outlets. There was one person who was comparing this to what happened in Germany with Hitler, which is crazy. Those kind of comments don't help anything. Also, it's just not true. It's just a total false accusation. He's doing what is actually the legal process to do if you believe that there was some fishy activity happening or some suspicious activity happening, which is to take it to court and to have an investigation play out. And they're also painting a picture that come January that it's going to be Trump locking himself in the Oval Office with just him and a shotgun refusing to leave, right, no matter what the results are. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's a ridiculous picture to paint and so forth. I am fully about letting the evidence play out. Let's have the investigation. Let's see what the results are. But if the results come back and there's not enough evidence to show that there was mass voter fraud to overturn the results, which, by the way, my principle on this is my principle on everything when it comes to investigations, which is we in America live by the policy that we are innocent until proven guilty. And so it's got to be the same way with voting too. It has to be that the voting needs to stick where it is unless proven to be fraud, which it may be, but we have to wait and see. And if the investigators do their job and they dig deep enough, then hopefully we'll arrive at the truth. But Democrats are painting this picture that Trump is a tyrant. See, he's refusing to leave office. Watch this clip, this little ad that I saw that is so dumb, guys. It is maybe the dumbest political ad I have ever seen in my life. Take a look.
Hey, honey. Mommy.
You asked me to wake you and tell you what happened in the election.
Who won?
Trump. Trump won.
But I thought you could only be president 2 times.
Not anymore.
Okay. And so what this came out before the election obviously happened, and what they're already trying to paint, as you can see, is that Trump is a tyrant, a dictator who's going to refuse to leave, and before you know it, 10 years from now, he'll still be our president. He'll be refusing to leave. He'll have the military holding us captive, and that is absolutely ridiculous. And so again, I'm all for the evidence coming out, but if the evidence comes out and shows, or let me say it this way, is unable to prove that there was mass voter fraud, then I certainly expect that Donald Trump is going to hand over the White House and concede the election, which he absolutely should do. Which on the flip side, if it does come out and show that there was mass voter fraud, Biden should do the same thing. And then here, let me say one last major issue that I have with the way that Democrats are handling this scenario. And let me single it out more and talk primarily about the media and the politicians, not as much the people. One of the things that's driving me nuts is this narrative that's saying that the fact that the results are being questioned is potentially going to kill our democracy. How incredibly dangerous this is to question the results of the election and to question that the winner may have won illegitimately, because that can ruin the foundations of democracy. It's like, did we just forget that in 2016 that we have Hillary Clinton, who after she lost went through a little stolen election tour where she went around and talked to everybody about how the election was stolen from her from Russia, and how for over 2 years of our lives, all we could hear about ever on any media station other than Fox was how Russia and Trump colluded to steal the election. So don't talk about how it's dangerous to imply that the results weren't chosen by the people, because if people lose faith in the democracy, then we lose who we are as a nation and we no longer have democracy. You cannot talk about that when you just spent years going down the path trying to prove that the election was not chosen by the people, or that the winner, Trump, was not chosen by the people. You cannot have those kind of double standards. We should be on the same page. I said this in my last video. I'm a broken record here. We should be on the same page. In 2016, when it came to Trump-Russia collusion, we should all want to know the truth. Whatever the truth is, that's what we should want to know. And if Trump colluded with Russia, then whatever the consequences are, he needs to suffer them. And if he didn't, then we need to let it go. And same here. If there was mass voter fraud, then there needs to be consequences for that, meaning primarily that every legal vote is actually counted and the results are based on that, and fraudulent votes are overturned. There should be that. And if there's not fraudulent voting, then everyone needs to accept the outcome of the election. That's where I stand. I want to know the truth, guys. I'm going to be a broken record. I'm going to keep saying it over and over, but let's get to the bottom of things. Let's all be on the same page, whether Republican or Democrat, and let's try to figure out what is the truth. And so that's where we are. Republicans, please hold to what you're asking Democrats to hold to, which is you're telling Democrats, don't come to the conclusion that there was no voter fraud until the evidence comes out, until the investigation plays out. But you also hold to that. You don't come to the conclusion that it did happen until the investigation plays out, because we, as much as we feel like we know things, and I feel like I know things a lot, we are not the experts. Let's let the people do their jobs. Let's let them investigate, and let's respect the outcome of the investigation. And that if anyone's trying to tamper with evidence or hide it, let's hope and pray to God that that evidence comes out, because we want to know the truth. And Democrats, please stop acting like this is the end of the world, because there is a legal process being taken, how it is supposed to be to investigate something when there's suspicious activity or when there's reasonable cause to believe that there was tampering with voting. It is not the end of the world. It's a legal process. He's not going outside of the law. Trump isn't going outside of the law. He's staying within the law, and he's doing it how you are supposed to do it if you believe that there's something fishy going on. And last thing, Democrats, please don't tell me that by even questioning the outcome of an election that we're undermining democracy, when we could not get the words Trump, Russia out of our heads, because we hear that every day for years, talking about how the election was stolen because Russia colluded. So anyway, guys, I'm sure some of you probably radically disagreed with some things that I said, and that's okay. Part of my hope with this channel and part of my belief is that we can even sometimes radically disagree with each other, but still be respectful and still be cordial and hear each other out and not belittle each other. That's part of my hope with what this channel is. And so anyway, guys, I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. If you like what I'm trying to do with this channel, or you like this video, click the like button. It just helps the algorithms recommend this video more. I appreciate it, guys. Also, if you enjoy this kind of content, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future videos, and the notification bell so you actually get notified. And other than that, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next Jonathan Dearman Show. Peace out.